Hello, and welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Laura Lane, Chief Corporate Affairs, Communications, and Sustainability Officer for UPS. My name is Catherine Kostreva, and I am a co-founder of Meritorious. I'm excited to be here today and grateful to those who have joined us via Zoom and as we simulcast. Most everyone in my family served in the military going back to Guadalcanal, and my fiance, also the co-founder of Meritorious, served 10 years in the United States Marine Corps, serving 4 deployments, including Iraq and twice to Afghanistan. We started Meritorious because we identified a twofold gap. The first is that as veterans and military spouses successfully rise in their professional careers or entrepreneurial journeys, they become further alienated from their military-connected peers. Scattered networks do exist to connect veterans with each other, yet few focus on connecting successful executives who served while contributing to their professional development. The second gap that we identified involves those who served full careers in the military, and as they transition, they are expected to essentially start over. We aspire to connect these service members and recently transitioned veterans with members of Meritorious so that they may connect with their direct peers. And these peers are decision makers who have the power to guide them into a more meaningful and aligned transition. In brief, Meritorious is a new national network for military veterans and spouses in senior level positions with a mission to connect members and help them grow through a member portal, events, and professional development. The member portal connects members with each other. It connects entrepreneurs with advisors and investors, and it supports mentorship between members and careerist transitioning service members. Meritorious events range from networking huddles and partner convenings to educational presentations and larger inspirational TEDx-style talks. Members committed to growing personally and professionally can join Meritorious masterminds facilitated by trusted executive coaches. We offer masterminds tailored to business owners, masterminds for professionals looking to advance their careers or change careers, and masterminds for transitioning service members and recently transitioned veterans and spouses. We hope to see you at our upcoming events, and if you have not already, please consider joining us by visiting meritorious.us. Now, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce our moderator for this afternoon, Dr. Heidi Kraft. Dr. Kraft received her PhD in clinical psychology from the University of California, San Diego. She joined the Navy during her internship at Duke University Medical Center and went on to serve as both a flight and clinical psychologist. Her active duty assignments included the Naval Safety Center, the Naval Health Research Center, and Naval Hospital, Jacksonville, Florida. While on flight status, she flew in nearly every aircraft in the Navy and Marine Corps inventory, including more than 100 hours in the FA-18 Hornet, primarily with Marine Corps squadrons. In February 2014, she deployed to Western Iraq for 7 months with a Marine Corps surgical company, and this is all while her boy and girl twins were just 15 months old. Rule number 2 is a memoir of that experience, which you can find on Amazon. Worth mentioning, her husband served in the Marine Corps. Dr. Kraft left active duty in 2005 after 9 years in the Navy. She currently serves as Chief Clinical Officer at PsychArmor Institute, a national nonprofit that provides free online education for those who live with, care for, and work with military veterans. She's frequently invited to speak at conferences and panels on combat stress, stigma, and caring for the caregiver. She's a lecturer at San Diego State University, where she teaches stress, trauma, and the psychological experience of combat, among other courses. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Heidi Kraft. Thank you for joining us, Heidi.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be here. And it is my great honor to introduce Laura Lane. Laura Lane is the Chief Corporate Affairs, Communications, and Sustainability Officer for UPS, responsible for public policy, government affairs, public relations, employee communications, sustainability, and the UPS Foundation. Prior to this, she held international and global policy leadership roles for Citigroup and Time Warner. Her government service included roles as a trade negotiator for the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, and as a diplomat in the U.S. Foreign Service from 1990 through 1997, including service as consular economic officer in Colombia and Rwanda, leading evacuation efforts after the civil war there. Laura is the co-chair of the President's Advisory Council on Doing Business in Africa, sits on the board of UNHCR USA and the Girl Scout Council of the nation's capital. She holds a bachelor's in political science and history from Loyola University and an MS in foreign service in international economics and business diplomacy from Georgetown University. Laura, it is a pleasure to welcome you to today's discussion, and it is my honor as a veteran and as a Marine Corps spouse to have the opportunity to talk with you a little bit and let our listeners know a little bit about your remarkable career journey.
Thank you, Dr. Kraft. And let me also say thank you for your service. Being married to a Marine myself, I know what it takes to lead and serve in our country. And so thank you to you and all the listeners who are or have served our country.
It was my great honor. Let's start with some questions about your personal career. I think our listeners would probably be really interested, as I am, to know a little bit about some of these experiences. In the early 1990s, you served in the US Foreign Service as an officer in Colombia. You were then the Economic and Political Military Affairs Officer at the American Embassy in Kigali, Rwanda, and led the evacuation effort there of American citizens in April of 1994 as they had an outbreak there of a civil war. How did these experiences shape your personal and professional life that followed?
You know, I, in many ways, had always wanted to serve my country, and I chose the diplomatic route going into the Foreign Service, and never realized the kind of formative experiences I would have in serving in Bogota, Colombia, and Kigali, Rwanda, that were really life-changing for me. Bogota, Colombia at the time was a high-threat post. It was at the height of the drug violence, and I remember being driven to work in an armored car with a lead car, follow car. But the best thing ever happened to me in Bogota, Colombia. That's where I met my husband. He was a U.S. Marine security guard at the American Embassy, and it was kind of fabulous serving in a high-threat post, always having a Marine by your side.
Yes.
But moving on to Kigali, Rwanda, I had gone there to try to be a part of the peacekeeping efforts, to try to bring the country together. And sadly, I ended up being a firsthand witness to genocide and having to lead the evacuation efforts to get innocents out of that country. And what was life-changing about that experience, as well as Colombia, is it taught me about the importance of people, surrounding yourself with great people, and always standing by your people. I think that's something that in the military you also know. It's your brothers and sisters in arms that you have to care for each other. You go into battle together and you want to come out together. And I learned that just in my service in both of those postings, about how critically important it is to lift people up and make sure you are serving them well if they're part of your team. I also learned the fundamental importance of principle. I was raised in a values grounded household, but when you're confronted with some of the decisions that I had to make in the middle of the genocide, and you're stripped of everything else, connections to anyone else, all you really do is have that moral compass. And I learned in those moments of having to make those split-second decisions and trying to save people's lives, that at the end of the day, you can lose everything that you own. But if you keep tight and hold true to your values, you can make it, forward and lead well no matter what. And the last is the critical importance of purpose. I think when you are a firsthand witness to genocide and you survive some of those experiences, you learn very early on, at least I did, that it doesn't matter, the title, what your career path is. It matters the purpose that you give to your life. And ever since those days, I've tried to be someone who's very mission-driven, purpose-driven, and recognizing that my time on earth, the days I'm given, I should, follow that purpose and really make a difference. And so that's something that's guided me since then.
What astounding experiences, and as you say, completely life-changing. I had the opportunity to spend a little time in Africa, and while it was not in the acuity that you did, it was also life-changing in many of the same ways. I hear you speak, and it reminds me a lot of some of those same experiences. After Citigroup and Time Warner, you began your UPS career as the president of Global Public Affairs since 2011. Since joining UPS, you've been advocating for laws that promote equity and justice in the workplace. Can you tell us about what UPS is doing to support its own workforce in these areas? Also, what does it do to support veteran hiring?
Yeah. So part of the big reason that I joined UPS is because of the values that the company holds. We live our values in the company, and one of the founding values is the importance of fairness, dignity, and respect. And we really do believe in it doesn't matter, what the color of your skin is, the religion, your race, your sexual orientation, any of that doesn't matter. We're not red or blue or brown. We're UPSers, and therefore we advance policies internally that are all about promoting equity and justice because we believe it. It's who we are as UPSers, and then we try to translate that out in the communities that we serve. And so at the height of some of the social unrest that we saw mid-year, coming through the COVID pandemic and then grappling with, these underlying concerns that should have been addressed a long time ago, but our companies and our communities are facing, we decided we weren't going to just be one of those companies that wrote a check to some organization, to say that we were going to support equity and justice. We were going to act. We were going to take that anger and turn it into positive action, in the words of our CEO. And so we've done a number of things. One, we have instituted training across all levels of our organization to address unconscious bias, because a lot of us don't realize maybe in our actions or our words that we may be suggesting certain things that could be taken out of context or could be taken in the wrong way. And in an effort to train people how to be more, treating people with more fairness, dignity, and respect, we said, let's not just ask them to do it, let's work with them and train them and show them how to do it. I mean, anybody in the military knows great training leads to great results. We've invested in that internally. We've also created opportunities for a lot more discussion and engagement. So conscious efforts to promote courageous conversations among our UPSers to talk about all those issues that maybe sometimes people keep silent, but we want to bring people together in dialogue and understanding. So we've created business resource groups that facilitate those kind of discussions so that there can be positive dialogues about how to come together. Because for UPS, we feel we're stronger when we're united. And in turn, we want to take that principle out into our communities. And that's why we didn't just support additional organizations that promote equity and justice. We said we will commit 1 million volunteer hours. Our people will go out in communities and volunteer to promote that equity and justice, working in underserved communities. One of the most powerful groups that we have includes the Veterans BRG. And this is what the great part about UPS is. We have an amazing contingent of veterans that are part of our company. UPS recognizes if you want to go for excellence, hire a vet, right? Because they've been trained, they have that commitment and that discipline to deliver. So we have a lot of veterans in our ranks. And in terms of veteran hiring, we made a commitment back in 2016 to hire 50,000 veterans. And we hit that target 2 years early, and we just keep that going because we know great when we see it. And every veteran that has joined our ranks has just made us better. So we continue those efforts. We also support a lot of organizations in the veterans community. So we have a lot of partnerships with groups like PAVE, and we do volunteering with important organizations like the Paralyzed Veterans Organization, sponsoring, the veterans game, the Paralyzed Veterans Games. It's one of the places where my team and I have volunteered. I'm an athlete myself, and then I watch these athletes out there and they just inspire me to work harder myself. And so there's so many ways that we try to do our part, not because it's the right thing to do, but because it's great for our business too, to hire vets, support them, and see them thrive and flourish in our company or in our communities.
Well, on behalf of them, thank you for that. It matters.
Yeah.
UPS has always been at the forefront of driving prosperity for women-owned small businesses, and this is globally. Can you tell us about your current work in that area and why it's so important to you personally?
You know, that's such a perfect question to ask this month, because October is small women's business, or no, not small women, Women's Small Business Month. And so we have amazing women-owned businesses that are out there. And I have to tell you, through COVID-19, we've seen women have been the hardest impacted in many ways because of a lot of the changes that they've had to adjust to. Many of them are caregivers. They're now homeschooling their kids, plus they're also trying to run businesses. And so UPS has said, what more can we do to help not just all of our small and medium-sized businesses, but especially those women-owned businesses? And so we've made it personal and really engaged. It started a couple years back, but we've really accelerated it through COVID-19 and the pandemic in terms of organizing webinars and these informational conferences to give women the tools to be able to take their products and use e-commerce to reach more customers and to export. We know 95% of the world's consumers live outside the United States. We want to help those women-owned businesses reach all of those new customers outside the US. Second, I will say that, you know, in the United States of America, we are so blessed. Women like you and I, we have so many opportunities because it is the law of the land that women can serve in any way possible, and the laws prevent discrimination against us as women. But that doesn't exist around the world. And UPS operates in 220 countries and territories, so we know the specific challenges that women face in many markets overseas. There's actually laws on the books that prevent women from owning their own business. They have to have sometimes a male co-signer on loans. They sometimes can't even open bank accounts in their own name. Sometimes they can't travel freely in a country without permission from a father, a brother, or a spouse. And we said, you know, the world should be held up equally, 50% by men and women. We need to change those laws so women are empowered to contribute to, you know, the global economy. And especially now with COVID-19, women should be able to contribute to the economic recovery. So we've been champions in the World Trade Organization for a new initiative to eliminate all of those discriminatory laws among all the countries that are members of the World Trade Organization, to say discrimination on the basis of gender should not be allowed. Women should be able to participate in global trade just like anybody else. And UPS has been the leading champion on that effort. And so we're open to many more ways that we're going to help women grow the economy. And here again, just like hiring vets and enabling veteran-owned businesses to flourish globally, we want to do the same with women.
Outstanding. Your husband served in the Marine Corps. As a military spouse, what were the challenges you faced when pursuing your career?
So I will say that this is one of the cases where it was a little bit in the reverse. First of all, shout out to my husband, man. He taught me courage, character, and confidence. And I am in the role that I am today just because he was the one who, when I doubted I could take on, you know, the next big role, he drilled in me, not like a drill sergeant, like a loving husband, that I could do this. And what I learned in terms of being a military spouse is just recognizing the partnership that it takes. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices for each other, and there's a recognition about the passion that each of you bring into a relationship, but also that commitment that you share to serve the community. And so many military spouses oftentimes don't get the recognition that they deserve, because while their husbands or wives are off, serving wherever, it's the spouses that are on the home front, making sure that they have something solid to come back to, managing all those things so that they can be singularly focused on the mission at hand. It does take that great partnership. And so I have always been proud to be my husband Greg's, wife, and to be by his side. And equally so, he being a great Marine has been by my side as I've focused on, whatever my mission or next, role or purpose was.
You started to address this, but since you now have moved into your roles, how do you feel like the military and corporate sectors are working together to make strides to better support today's military spouse careers? What do you think maybe still remains in that work?
I think a lot more work needs to be done. And here I will go to a lot of the international issues. A lot of times spouses, and I will say this for the Foreign Service as well as the spouses of those serving in the military, I think more needs to be done by governments to really facilitate the ability for spouses to continue their careers serving overseas. Those treaties need to be maintained, and the protocols need to be developed so that nobody has to put their career on hold if they're deployed overseas anywhere. So I think there's actually a lot more work that needs to be done. But the powerful part is I know that there is a recognition that you now have dual career households, and that more needs to be done to support it. And so I think that recognition is there, but more action steps need to be taken, because you shouldn't have to make those choices all the time when there are all these possibilities that are out there. The private sector can do it. The military should be able to as well.
Certainly. And we see similar challenges even within PCS moves around our country as military spouses who have licenses. So as a healthcare provider, certainly I'm one of them, but there are licenses in lots of different types of work where that license doesn't translate to another state, and there's a long waiting period or a different certification. So we see a lot of those challenges continuing.
What's great is, I was going to say, I didn't mean to interrupt, but on Capitol Hill, I know there's a lot of discussion about that, and we just need to get more momentum behind, passing that legislation at the federal level, so those kind of anomalies that especially exist across state lines can be addressed with clarity for those military spouses.
Right, in the entire nation, as a national policy that doesn't need to be so granular. Absolutely, agree. Let's shift to talking a little bit about COVID-19. This is obviously a crisis unlike anything we've quite ever seen before, and it has clearly altered and shaped the way a lot of people do business. People who are homebound, who have had to shop from their homes, have fueled record growth for UPS, is what I understand, with postings of 13.4% revenue growth to 20.5 billion in Q2. What are your expectations for the remainder of 2020 and moving into 21? Is this what we should expect going forward?
I think this is going to be a new normal. I think there were trends already developing in terms of people getting more comfortable doing more shopping online and doing purchases online. And our customers were developing those capabilities in more robust ways. And so I think when the vaccine is widely available and stores can reopen in a fuller way, I don't think that it's going to be necessarily going back to what was before. I think consumers have adjusted how they do purchasing, and we're going to see more opportunities to continue the delivery that we're doing. And I will say, UPS has been proud to be on the front lines. We have 500,000 UPSers that have not stopped a day of work when the pandemic first hit. And We knew that we had a mission and purpose to deliver as, as people were staying home, abiding by the stay-at-home orders, that we had to ensure that they could get what they needed. And so, we knew we had to keep doing that through the pandemic, but going forward, I want to share with you, we're also going to be part of that solution that's going to help us turn that corner. And in that regard, we're going to be one of the companies that's going to be responsible for delivering those vaccines and ensuring that they become as ubiquitous as quickly as possible, so that everyone has access to those vaccines as quickly as they can be rolled out. And so we recognize we got to be staffed up, ready to deliver on that commitment that we've made to the country and the world. And so in that regard, we're expecting a lot more volume going into 2021, which will include those critical vaccines that we want to get distributed as quickly as possible.
That's fantastic news. In July, you joined the Atlantic Council on International Relations, which analyzed global supply chains in the area of COVID-19. You described the crisis as a pivot point for the global trading system, which is increasingly under attack amid a rise in protectionism as the pandemic strains global supply chains, moving critical items like personal protective gear and medicine. Can you share more on why this is such a critical moment for global trade?
Well, I know that there is a desire in many respects to sometimes regroup behind national boundaries, right? But the reality is that there is a shared opportunity to partner with other countries around the world. A lot of the challenges that our world faces are ones that are going to require multi-country solutions. And so while there may be an anti-globalization viewpoint that's out there, the reality is there's still a lot of opportunity to partner with other countries, be it in the development of vaccines, be it in the development of solutions for addressing some of the climate change issues, be it in the development of a variety of new innovations that I think come from the sharing of ideas that cross borders. And so to a certain extent, I think there is a pivot point for us in that we need to make sure that we don't become isolationists, even though some of the fear that was caused by the virus and needing to ask people to stay in their communities rather than traveling out. We need to work back from that and recognize that there's a lot more benefits from shared ideas, shared trade, and shared innovation that come. And so I'm hoping that in a go forward basis, that globalization won't be that dirty word that it was before. There'll be a new globalization that will develop that's based on shared responsibilities and shared opportunities. And so I'm hopeful that in the world going forward, we'll recognize that we have more when we're united together in solving problems than trying to solve them in separate, national country kinds of ways. Because problems tend to cross borders. So solutions need to cross borders too.
Cross borders, exactly. This is an interesting one to me, having been a flight surgeon in the Navy and loving having my private pilot's license. I'm always interested in the aviation pieces, things that are happening. UPS Flight Forward is making history as the United States' first fully certified Part 135 drone airline. Can you tell us more about that and share with us the application of this technology during COVID and beyond? I'm assuming this has healthcare and retail application.
This is one of the coolest things that UPS has done. And I will share with you that we actually launched this service in partnership with a company called Zipline you're going to never believe it, in all places in Kigali, Rwanda. We launched the first drone service in Rwanda, and the purpose of it was all about healthcare. It was about how to deliver life-saving medicines and blood across the country in 15 minutes or less. And if you think about the state of the Rwandan economy, we are so blessed here in the United States of America because you can have access to anything. But think about Rwanda, which has challenges in terms of infrastructure and movement of supplies. We brought drones in, and we could save lives in 15 minutes or less because we could get from one side of the country to the other side of the country with our drones, delivering whatever was needed just in time. We expanded that service to Ghana and then finally got the approvals here in the US. And now we are using drones across a number of different hospital campuses to deliver much needed supplies so that when you need it just in time, and you know this, Dr. Kraft, that you don't want to be waiting. The patient needs it. We need to get it there to them fast. You don't want to be delayed by any congestion or traffic. Send it by drone. You can get it when it's needed quickly. And very cool part of our drone expansion efforts here in the US during COVID-19 is we actually did a partnership with CVS down in Florida. Think about all of our amazing seniors who need to get prescriptions, but they're our most precious generation. We wanted to keep them safe so that they wouldn't necessarily get exposed to COVID-19. We used drones for deliveries in one of the retirement communities down there of prescriptions. And we're finding new and innovative ways to serve our customers using this drone technology. And I think it's super cool because it's another way we're trying to deliver for our customers and communities and innovating and using the technologies that best suit the application as needed. So,
how big are they? How big are the drones?
So some of them are just, I don't know the dimensions, but they're not that big, right? And they have a small box that carries the cargo. Okay. We are also innovating on bigger drones to be able to carry heavier payloads, bigger cargo, to be able to move, for example, between facilities with packages that need to be delivered in locations. Maybe in spite of delays on the ground, we can get it there through drones in the air. So we are experimenting with all different sizes. I know you're familiar with the military size ones. These are a little bit dialed back from that, but still able to deliver life-saving results when they're used for healthcare applications or critical deliveries of packages with whatever's needed inside, be it parts or be it equipment that might be needed across town or farther away than you can get it quickly, following the speed limits on the ground.
Of course, right.
Safety first for us, so.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about UPS Foundation,
yes,
which you obviously head up. Can you talk a little bit about the UPS Foundation's 4 focus areas? I understand it's 20 million by 2020 pledge, yes, partnering with nonprofits to serve communities around the world.
And I will proudly say UPS delivered on that already. We made that commitment when we delivered early because our UPSers, it's kind of in our DNA to be out there volunteering. And so when we put down that pledge that we were going to do 20 million hours by 2020, UPSers were all in and we delivered early on that. We said, okay, let's keep going. And so one of our newest pledge actually, which I mentioned, was 1 million hours to serve in underserved communities, because we want to be part of advancing that equity and justice and doing it not just with check writing, but with really investing our people power out in communities. And so that's been a cool initiative that we already have underway that was launched June 1st, and we're already well on our way there. In terms of our pillars, though, we really focus in 4 key areas. We focus on environmental stewardship. So we want to be, we're all brown, but we want to be all green. And so we want to find ways to really help advance initiatives that help with greener communities. We also obviously are part of the volunteerism effort and, devoting our people's time and energy into transforming communities with the service that we do. The third is all about community safety. I mean, our UPSers on the road get extensive training and in the air to make sure that we always deliver safely and that our people are provided that safety while they're delivering. But we also think we have an obligation to deliver that commitment in the communities and helping in terms of teaching community safety. And so one of the ways that we do that, for example, is partnering with the Boys and Girls Club with our road code program, teaching teens how to be safer drivers on the road. Because one of the biggest killers of teens is traffic accidents. We want to do our part in terms of sharing the training that we give our very drivers to be safe on the roads, teach it in the communities. And the last is that diversity and inclusion piece. We want to be part of helping communities understand the power that comes when you bring people together, when you unite people together, when we embrace the beauty of everyone's differences, but we include everybody into the communities. And so we have a lot of initiatives that are focused on fostering equity, justice, and promoting that diversity and inclusion, be it through internships that we provide with historically Black colleges, or partnering with the Hispanic organizations to bring more Hispanics and Latinos into our businesses, or partnering through diversity supplier efforts. It's a myriad number of ways that we try to say, we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk in terms of our engagement in communities on these 4 important pillars.
Under that diversity and inclusion focus area, I would assume that also includes work that has extended to veterans and veteran service organizations, other nonprofits supporting veterans.
Absolutely, and we have such a commitment to being partners with those kinds of organizations. I'm going to share with you just one example that's very personal to me. One of the ways we do it is partnering with veterans causes and also partnering with veterans groups to show the world why we as UPS honor the service of our veterans. And that's a partnership that I've personally engaged in with Flags of Valor. Flags of Valor is this amazing company, veteran owned. It helps especially veterans who suffered from PTSD and bringing them into the workplace. They actually make made in America, made by vets, American flags that get displayed, everywhere and anywhere. But they're a way that veterans can come together and make something beautiful, and that is the flag that they fought for and all that it stands for. Well, I partnered with Brian Stewart's Flags of Valor. They ship UPS, but we try to deliver for them in so many other ways. We've partnered with them on the 9/11 Promise Run, for example. It was important to Flags of Valor to show that commitment and recognition of all those who died in service to our country in the aftermath of 9/11. We ran from the Pentagon to Ground Zero in New York City over 3 days, carrying that flag of honor every step of the way. We've partnered with them in terms of telling their story, through not just our website, but also in so many different company events where we've talked about the contributions that veterans have made, not just to our country, but our company. And so that's a beautiful way in which we've partnered with vets. They've been great customers, but we've also delivered good in our communities together.
Thank you so much for taking the time to answer these questions. I understand that our audience does have a couple of questions for you, Laura.
So we have one question. We're going to actually go to the very beginning. You spoke of unconscious bias in the workplace, working with and training employees. And do you have examples of ways of facilitating the discussions and that dialogue in the workplace?
So we have partnered with outside organizations that have a lot of experience in how to foster these kinds of discussions to bring people together. And in that partnership, we have in our unconscious bias training program had a facilitator that then brings 15 to 20 UPSers together. Unfortunately, with COVID-19, we've had to do it all virtually, but power of technology has made it possible. And we've had these training programs where we walk through examples of unintended bias, what the implications are, how it hurts our mission, or ways in which we can address it, and really delivering that message within our workforce that you have an obligation and a responsibility to act to address instances where, you know, that principle for us of fairness, dignity, and respect are not being adhered to, and also finding ways for people to have, I want to say, more empathy and understanding about the way in which words and actions can be received by others because they've come from a different, viewpoint, or they come from a different walk of life. And that training we're almost, 75% through our entire workforce, 25% more to go. And we're already seeing the tremendous benefits of it, because as we're seeing out in our communities, people being uncomfortable about how to be part of the solution, we've been fostering those dialogues through the training so that our UPSers feel like they don't have to worry about what they say, that they're encouraged to engage with fellow UPSers to make our workplace a positive, uplifting environment. And our hope is that in training our UPSers, they'll then become ambassadors in their communities for that same kind of effort to foster dialogue, because that's the only way we're going to bring the country together. You don't do it by, standing on one side or the other on an issue, or on either side of a political spectrum. But if we can bring people together to address some of the concerns that are out there in our communities, we think we can foster that, what should stand for United States of America. We think of us as United Parcel Service. That united should mean something, and that unity comes from, addressing that unconscious bias. And so we want to be those champions for fostering that positive change. And the training, we think, is the foundation from which we're going to be able to build those kinds of behaviors and changes in culture, not just within UPS, but externally.
We have another question. Speaking of employees, UPS is an advocate for its employees. How are you keeping UPSers safe in the workplace?
So I will tell you, when the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, there was not a lot of information about what this virus was all about initially. And in the early days, we had to make a lot of quick decisions about how to keep our people safe. And so we were one of the first companies that actually mandated across the boards wearing masks as our employees were going to work, having the health checks as they showed up to work. And in many ways, asking them to do their own health checks at home, taking their temperature, reporting it in, really encouraging them to stay home if they felt unwell, and not just asking them to do it, but incentivizing them by saying, hey, if you think you have the symptoms of COVID-19, we will have pay and benefits to support you being able to take care of yourself or your loved ones. So that we were ensuring people, when they weren't feeling well, were encouraged to stay home, but those that came to work were encouraged to follow our processes and methods. Those processes and methods included wearing those masks, hand sanitizing regularly, or washing their hands. We had all the supplies available at the outset, in each of our facilities, on our package cars. And really, UPS is the best at having the right processes and protocols immediately implemented. So we had regular cleaning of all of our facilities, our package cars, that sanitizing of every touch point being done, very consistently as people were coming to work and continuing to work. And remember, we're a 24/7 operation in many respects. And so we had to keep that going. I'm pretty proud to say that our UPSers knew we cared about them, because we are a people-led company, and we ensured that they knew that we would provide everything that they needed so that they could safely deliver and safely deliver to the communities we were serving. So any adjustments that happened in CDC guidelines, we tried to immediately implement within our facilities and in our delivery methods. So one of them, just to give you a concrete example, we used to have signature required for certain packages. We found ways working with our customers to change those protocols quickly. So whatever it took, our priority was keeping our people safe and keeping those we were delivering to safe. And we did it by just making, every change we needed to in the way we delivered, and we continue to do that.
We have two more questions. I think this one will be a bit cut and dry. Regarding drones, is UPS contracting with smaller manufacturers of drones?
UPS is a big believer in partnering with a lot of different organizations, because we recognize great ideas come from a lot of different places, from big and small organizations. So Zipline is an example of a partnership. Matternet is another example of a partnership. Workhorse is another one. We partner with a lot of different companies because we think that there's a lot to be learned when you have that kind of flying laboratory of solutions to test them for different kinds of use cases. And so companies that are interested in partnering with us should reach out to our advanced technology group, which is headed by Bala Ganesh. And they are constantly in search of new ideas, new innovations, new technologies that we can deploy in our operations to better serve our customers. So
we have one more question that we have time for. What is the path to connect a smaller veteran nonprofit founded by two women with UPS to help sponsor or support their efforts in veteran suicide prevention in Colorado?
So you just have to reach out to me at lauralane@ups.com, because I head up the foundation, and Nikki Clifton is actually the president of the foundation, and she reports in through me. And between Nikki and I, we'd love to hear about the organization and the opportunities that are out there, because we believe we have a responsibility to our communities. And I know addressing the challenges for veterans suffering from PTSD and the suicide prevention part of some of the challenges that vets are grappling with, that we need to be part of delivering solutions for them too. And we'd love to learn about new ideas and new opportunities there.
It's really been a pleasure to learn about all the incredible things you're doing, and very eye-opening for me, I'm sure for our audience as well.
And thank you very much, Dr. Kraft. I really appreciate it. And for all the listeners out there, I hope everyone knows UPS considers itself another branch of service for the country. And so we consider ourselves partners and brothers and sisters in arms, so to speak, in terms of delivering for the country. And so I really appreciated the opportunity to talk with all the listeners about what UPS is doing and the mission that we have. And for all the vets out there interested in working with UPS, all vets are welcome. So thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Kraft, of course, for moderating a fabulous question. And thank you, Laura and UPS, for joining us and sharing everything, your good works for the veteran and the greater community. And we hope to see everyone at our next event. And again, you can visit meritorious.us. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.